Smash Ultimate has always struggled with having a true prevailing narrative like Melee has due to how many players across different countries and continents there are. Sure, we've had smaller narratives like the Four Horsemen narrative for like 4 months, and Spargo's push to global rank 1, but nothing that really lasts. However, that would all change during Japan's Golden Week in May of 2024. While many did believe that Japan was the strongest region in Smash Ultimate, it wasn't until Golden Week 2024 that this thinking became widespread. The most recent rankings at the time, released at the end of the year in 2023, had 77 Japanese players ranked in the top 150, compared to only 26 in the previous year. During Golden Week, there were 2 P-tier tournaments, the largest and most prestigious classification of tournament. On May 3rd, 2024, there was Delta number 8, with 512 entrants, and on May 5th and 6th, there was the big one, Kagaribi 12. With 2,030 entrants, Kagaribi 12 was the largest Japanese Smash tournament of all time and the 9th largest Smash tournament ever. It also had a number of international players, including some of the best like MKLeo, Spargo, Gluttony, Zomba, Meister, and several others. What would follow would be an embarrassment for the rest of the world. Golden Week is a week in Japan with 4 national holidays all very close to each other, and as a result, Japan's biggest Smash tournaments occur during this time. And because of this is the most common time for international players to visit Japan to participate in their tournaments. The first of Golden Week 2024's big tournaments, Delta 8, had exactly 15 non-Japanese players in attendance. Let's see how they all did. Warning, viewer discretion is advised. Not a single non-Japanese player was able to make top 8, with the highest placing international player being the GOAT himself, MKLeo, at 9th, losing to his eternal demon Shuton and Akagi Kusu, the hero player. Additionally, the then global rank 2 player, Spargo, lost to Donkey Kong and Toon Link, so that's pretty crazy. Then came the big one, Kagaribi 12. It wasn't any better, some may even argue that it's worse. Sure, we got 5 more international players, but one of them, the then global rank 45, Big D, placed 257th. That should give you an idea of how brutal this tournament was. The highest placing international player was Gluttony at 9th, followed by Meister at 13th, and then MKLeo and Zomba both for 25th. And after Mia won the tournament over Hurt with a reverse 3-0 sweep in Grands, he said this.
Okay, so say something to everyone who's watching. He said, okay, so wait a moment. Last time I said, when was it like I won Kagaribi last time? I think it was like November something. And I said like, compete to Sumamate. And after that, and I compete to Sumamate. And I took like 2,600, that's the high score in Sumamate. And now I won the tournament. I was competing to Sumamate, and I said compete to Sumamate, and I won the tournament. That means if you compete to Sumamate, you can win the tournament, so compete to the Sumamate, he said.
A direct call out at the rest of the community. Smashmate is Japan's online matchmaking service which is used by most, if not all, of their top players. Meanwhile, in North America and Europe, any matchmaking services are never used by top players. This could be for a variety of reasons, such as there being no prize money or motivation for grinding, or due to top players not wanting to lose to randoms and then get clipped on Twitter. All of which are not complaints in Japan. Anyways, following the 2 Golden Week P-tiers, Sumabata would become a monthly major in Japan, and due to how often they were, combined with how top players would show up regularly, Japan would gain lots and lots of hidden bosses that I doubt anyone aside from Rosebloom has heard of. And outside of Japan, the scene was in shambles that Japan was now officially the strongest region. However, it seemed like for now, nothing would change, as due to the reasons I mentioned like a minute ago, no one would do anything about it. Well, except for Spargo. Before Supernova, which I will mention in a bit, Spargo took a trip to Japan literally just the week before to participate in another Japanese P tier, that being Kowloon number 12 with Kaguribi. 1,426 Japanese players, and Spargo. And Yoda Cage randomly being there as the 126th seed, what the heck? While he was there, Spargo grinded with Japanese players a bunch and would end up proving that Kaguribi and Delta were outlier performances for him. Spargo ended up getting 3rd place, losing to Doromiki, who he would later beat in the runback later that same tournament, and Akola. Akola was the rank 1 player in the world at the time, yes, but this was actually the first time Akola had beaten Spargo since they first played at the Ludwig Smash Invitational back in 2022. The set went Game 5, and it was a really emotional moment for Akola, who would go on to get 2nd to Mia after resetting the bracket. Later in the year, that set between Akola and Spargo would be voted by the Japanese Smash community as one of the greatest sets of all time. It seemed like all of the top 3 accomplished what they wanted to accomplish with this tournament. Mia won a P tier, Akola finally beat Spargo again, and Spargo proved that despite his lackluster performance at Kaguribi, he was still a top player and could defeat anyone if he tried. Oh, and Yoda Cage got 65th, losing to Hurt and Riteshia. And that brings us to Supernova 2024, America's biggest tournament each year. The tournament that used to be Smash Ultimate's most stacked tournament each year until Kaguribi changed that. And this time, it was the rest of the world's chance to defend their pride against Japan. Everyone was here, even me. It was actually before Top 24 in Phase 3 of pools when the bloodbath began. Japan had sent 14 of their best players to Supernova, and in the minds of every non-Japanese top player was one goal: to defeat the Japanese, to show the community that Japan was not that far above them in skill. Mars, the content creator, who got 33rd that one time, beat Mia 3-0, sending Japan's 2nd best player to losers way earlier than expected. Onin defeated the Japanese Kazuya and Pac-Man main T. Spargo beat Ken as expected, though Ken would make it to top 24 through the loser side of bracket. In losers, Beast Mode Paul beat T 3-0, eliminating the first of Japan's top players at 33rd. After beating T, Beast Mode Paul had to fight Mia, and though he won the first 2 games, Mia would bring it back with a reverse sweep. From the first pool, 2 of the 3 Japanese players would make it to top 24. The next pool had the then global rank 1 player Akola, as well as the then global rank 8 and 26 players, Tamapi Daifuku and Yoshidora. Conveniently enough, Akola and Yoshidora were seeded into each other, but when the dust settled, it was actually Yoshidora who defeated Akola, meaning he made it to top 24 winner side, while Akola made it to top 24 loser side. Tamapi Daifuku, however, was not so lucky. He had to fight Europe's 3rd major winner Cripe Soleil, who would then beat him in a crazy Game 5, sending him to losers where he would lose to Pibra, exiting the tournament at 25th place. From the second pool, 2 of the 3 Japanese players would make it to top 24. The third pool had Neo, Snow, Gact, Shuton, and Raru, 5 Japanese players with 6 top 24 slots. How many would make it out? 3. Firstly, Neo would go 0-2 in his Phase 3 pool, losing to Jazo and Cody the Peach player, who was ranked 6th on the New York PR. To this day, his win on Neo at Supernova remains his best win. So Neo got 65th, the lowest of all the Japanese players in attendance aside from Maipon, who got 129th. Raru would best both Akola and Shuton to make top 24 winner's side, which would allow Shuton to make top 24 from the loser's side. Snow and Gact would also fight, the second team kill of the pool. Gact would lose to Snow Game 5 and then would lose the Ditto to Atada, also Game 5, exiting the tournament at 33rd place. Following the team kill on Gact, Snow would then fight the 3rd best player in the world, Sonics, in the ultimate Mario vs. Sonic battle. But he won, which no one was expecting. This made Sonics grind the matchup a lot, and he later went to Riptide because Snow was announced to be going and won the runback. But here, Snow took the set and made it into top 24 winner's side. The final pool had only 2 Japanese players, Ashimo and Hurt. Ashimo beat MKLeo and lost a tweak to make it into top 24 loser's side, while Hurt made it in through winner's side, beating MVD, Dabuz, and Zamba. And with that, the stage was set for Supernova's top 24 on Championship Sunday. 9 Japanese players, 1 European player, and 14 North American players. This was what the bracket looked like going into Day 3 of Supernova. The winner's bracket had 4 Japanese players and 4 non-Japanese players. Those who would win their next set would make it into top 8 winner's side, while those who lost would have to play one more set to decide if they make top 8 or get eliminated from the tournament at 9th place. Hurt would beat Tweak to make top 8 winner's side, Shattuck would beat Yoshidora, sending another Japanese player into the loser's bracket, and finally, Raru would team kill Snow, proving that Luigi is the better Mario brother and making it into top 8 winner's side. In the losers bracket, Mia beat Shuton before losing Game 5 to Sonics, who lost to Snow the previous day and was on a crazy losers run. Akola went Game 5 with MKLeo, Dabuz, and Mars all back-to-back to make top 8 loser side. Ashimo beat Geist and Zomba before team killing Snow to make top 8. And lastly, Ken beat Atada before losing to Onen, who then lost to Yoshidora, who made top 8. So in pools, we had 15 Japanese players, in top 24 we had 9, and in top 8, 5. A majority of the players in top 8, 62.5% of them, were Japanese. Let's start with the 7th place matches. Sonics beat Akola 3-0, and Ashimo beat Yoshidora in a Game 5 team kill. So moving from top 8 to top 6, we went from 5 Japanese players in top 8 to only 3. In the winner's side of bracket, both Hurt and Raru were sent to losers by Spargo and Shattuck respectively. Following these 2 sets, there were no more Japanese players left in the winner's side of bracket. In top 6, there were 3 Japanese players and 3 non-Japanese players, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Then, Sonics beat Raru and Ashimo beat Hurt in yet another team kill, meaning that Ashimo was the last Japanese player standing. We went from 15 to 9 to 5 to 1 single player carrying the weight of his entire nation on his shoulders. But Ashimo wasn't the only player to be carrying the weight of his nation on his shoulders. In top 4 we had Spargo from Mexico, Shattuck from the US, Sonics from the Dominican Republic, and of course Ashimo from Japan. Now how did it end for Ashimo? Well, he immediately lost his next set to Sonics. We did it, guys. We defended against the Japanese. Following Supernova, everyone realized that this victory would not last and they all needed to get better or else Japan would dominate. Meister announced that he would be going to Japan on a training journey, where he would play in 5 major and above tournaments and several locals, which I will get to later. And Spargo tweeted this, calling for top players to grind on Matchbox, specifically citing Japan's Smashmate and how it allows for up-and-comers to get better. That lasted about a week before it died again, so it's pointless to talk about, but during that week, it was used by a lot of top players, such as Spargo, Send, Jazo, and Wrath. Now I'll talk about Meister's training journey. Aside from a few locals that I will mention, during his Japan trip, Meister went to Sumabato SP50, Delta 8.5, Mayasuma Japan West 24, Umabura SP11, and Sumabato SP51. However, Meister would also grind on Smashmate a lot between tournaments, even hitting a JV4. Meister went to his first local in Japan, Mayasuma Hit 30, a weekly which had several top players in attendance, such as Alice, 33 Piran Box, Rocky, Yone P, Jogibu, and even Hurt, who was global rank 4 at the time. It's fair to say that this local was pretty stacked and would be great practice for Meister. So how did he do? Meister went on a tear. He beat global rank 41 Alice 2-1, followed by beating global rank 106 33 Piran Box 2-0, and then 2-0 over global rank 44 Karage to meet Hurt in grand finals, and Meister annihilated Hurt 3-0. At Sumabato SP50, the first major of the trip, Meister got double eliminated by Doromigi, exiting the tournament at 4th place, which is really good, especially at a Japanese major. Then came Delta 8.5. Yeah, this was a disappointment after Meister's performance at Sumabato, 17th with no good wins, even entering top 48 from the loser side of bracket. But Meister's next major was Japan West 24, a 24-player invitational where he would beat Rocky, Rarikusu, Snow, and Ashimo to place 3rd, collecting an array of amazing wins. This would be Meister's best performance in Japan. Next would be Umabura SP11, a P tier. Meister would place 25th out of 1,023 participants, but another foreign player came to play in Umabura SP11, the greatest player to ever touch Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, MKLeo, who also farmed a couple of Japanese locals during his trip. Now I'm sure you all know about Leo's insane run to 5th place where he brought out the Byleth and the Meta Knight, but to summarize it, I'll just play that Twitter clip I love so much that I just can't find the source of. With that, Meister's Japan trip would come to an end with his final major, the super major, Sumabato SP51, where he would place 4th with wins on Hurt, Raru, and Fui before being eliminated by Akola. Now, how much did the Japan buff help Meister? Well, at Meister's next event, Luminosity Invitational 2, Meister actually went undefeated in his pool, beating Ashimo, Shattuck, and Dabuz. Though in the actual bracket he lost to Shuton and Spargo, his wins in pools included a top 10 win, a top 15 win, and a win over his bracket demon. And at the tournament after that, the super major, Luminosity Makes Moves Miami 2024, he would place 5th. After this, Meister would say that going to Japan was a great decision and helped him improve a lot, leading to him eventually winning his first major in April of 2025, Obai Tori 2. which is also Luminosity's only Japanese major win. Great job, Meister. Riptide actually happened the week before Umebura, and Ashimo, Hurt, Mia, Shuton, and Snow all came from Japan. But that doesn't tell the full story, so let me set the stage for you. Supernova has just ended and everyone wants to get better at the game. After seeing how hyped Supernova was and remembering the embarrassment that was Kagari B12, everyone wanted another tournament they could go to. Enter Riptide. Riptide at this point was sitting pretty as a B-tier tournament. It had been a super major once before and was a melee major every year. As of August 1st, 2024, Ultimate Singles at Riptide was at a nice 450 entrants, with the Liquipedia notable entrants list looking like this. Before the end of the day, Apollo Kage and Mudace would also sign up. On the 4th, Chunky Kong would join them, and the next day, Ultimate Singles would surpass 500 entrants, with the notable entrants list now looking like this. A few more good players, but still nothing special. Then, the straw that broke the camel's back. Quandale Dingle Ingleton would sign up for Riptide on August 10th, the day before Supernova ended. After this, all hell would break loose. On the 13th, Zomba, Light, Wilds, Cola, Lima, Cosmos, and many more would sign up for Riptide, making the notable entrants list look like this. The next day was no different, as Sonics, Wrath, Geist, and Jackal would all sign up. And by this point, people could tell that Riptide was going to be a big tournament. And the TOs also took note, as the next day, a big announcement happened. Hurt was confirmed for Riptide. One of the contenders for best player in the world would be flying over from Japan to participate. After this, the community locked in. Chase, Louis Money, Riddles, and even Tweak signed up. Then Mia was announced to be coming, and in only 6 days, the notable entrants list had been transformed from this to this. Then Spargo and Shattuck and Snow, and now Riptide had over 800 entrants for Ultimate Singles, almost doubling in just under 2 weeks. Jazo and Jeja, Ashimo and Shuton, and with that, Riptide had gone from a B+ tier with 450 entrants to a P tier with almost 900. But it didn't stop there, as within another week, Ultimate Singles at Riptide 2024 would hit its entrant cap, 1,024 entrants, quite a few more than the 450 from less than 3 weeks ago. This would be the final notable entrants list. Onin, who was the most notable entrant at the event before the madness unfolded, was now only the 13th most notable entrant, which is pretty insane when you're the ranked 21st in the world. As for what happened during the tournament, I'm going to skip to top 8. While we started with 5 Japanese players, Hurt, Mia, Ashimo, Snow, and Shuton, only one of them would make it to top 8, that being Shuton. Shuton would eventually finish in 2nd place after ending Sonics' 2nd place curse by granting him a 3rd place. However, in 1st place was Spargo, who also won Supernova a few months earlier, meaning he had now won back-to-back P tiers. By this point, Spargo's goal was clear. He wanted to be global rank 1, above the then current global ranks 1 and 2, Akola and Mia, who are both Japanese. And so, Spargo began pushing for rank 1, offended by being ranked 9th in the world on the most recent rankings, but another player would take note and push for rank 1 as well, that being Mia. Mia would begin traveling a ton for the rest of the season, traveling to America to compete in the Lit Invitational 3, Cirque 4, Luminosity Make Moves Miami, and LACS Rivals. And Spargo would travel to all of those same events, except for Luminosity Makes Moves Miami, placing 9th, 4th, and 4th, compared to Mia's 5th, 1st, and 1st. Combined with each of their previous major wins, it was truly anyone's game. In my eyes, it would be settled at Dome Park on the grass near the end of the year, where Spargo and Mia played in grand finals in a nail-biter 9-game set. After the dust settled, the season ended, and the rankings released, drumroll please, Spargo was finally crowned global rank 1 by a margin of 0.8 points, though Mia and Akola were close behind with the rank 2 and 3 spots. However, if you look at the rankings, most of the ranked players were Japanese. Though Spargo had won the battle, it seemed as though Japan had won the war. Half of the top 10, 80 of the top 150, which is actually more than half of the globally ranked players, were Japanese. Following the end of the 2024 season, Hurt began gaining prominence. Yes, he was a quite well-known player ever since he beat Spargo to win his first major, Battle of BC6, earlier that year, but once 2025 rolled around, talks of him being the best player in the world began. It seemed like at that time no one ever won their first set with Hurt, except Meister. Also, likely due to how good Hurt was, and by extension how good it turned out that Snake was in the game, Snake rose from 15th on the 2nd official tier list to 3rd on the 3rd official tier list, joining Steve and Sonic in S+ tier. Hurt then won Smash Awesome and Genesis X2, a super major and a premier, and in the current day, despite setbacks that I'll mention in a bit, Hurt is still seen by some as possibly the best player in the world. At Luminosity Makes Big Moves, the first major of the year, Hurt, the only Japanese player in attendance, would get second place, losing only to Spargo twice. Genesis X2 had 22 Japanese players in attendance, and 7 of them made top 16, 5 made top 8, 3 made top 4, and 2 made top 2 to play in grand finals. And surprise, surprise, it was Akola and Hurt, arguably Japan's 2 best players. Hurt with 6-0 Akola in winners finals and grand finals in a dominant win. However, during Battle of BC7 in 2025, controversy would start as Hurt would get banned from competitive Smash Ultimate in Japan due to using delay mod for better connection, which people noticed on his streams. The thing is, in America, almost every top player uses delay mod on stream, but since Hurt is in Japan, rules are more strict, and so Hurt was banned from competition. While technically he could still attend tournaments at the discretion of each tournament's organizers, that would jeopardize his sponsorship from Enterforce 36, and so the best player in the world was fully banned from competing. At least this time it wasn't for something worse. Likely due to this, Hurt got 9th at Battle of BC7, as the announcement was put out during the tournament with a loss to Syrup and Monty. For the other 9 Japanese players in attendance, Battle of BC was overall a weaker tournament for them after the dominance they displayed at Genesis. While yes, they cooked hard in the Japan vs. the World crew battle, only Akola would make top 8 in the singles bracket, placing an uncharacteristic 5th, losing to Spargo and Ouch. Roughly a month later came Level Up Expo, and let me tell you, it was stacked. It was already an S Plus tier worth 7.6 thousand points in January, 4 months before the tournament even happened. Despite the entrance list being hidden for months, everyone knew that it would end up as a P tier. And they were right, as it ended up being worth 9,761 points, 63 points higher than Riptide was. And with it being the last tournament above major status before Kaguribi 13, it was really interesting for storylines and for gauging skills before the big one. But sadly, no Hurt, which really sucked. The upsets at this tournament went crazy. Tweak, Akola, Mia, and Zachary all got 33rd place, a career low for Akola and his first placement below 9th. Raru would miss top 8, somehow losing to Light in what is usually considered an unwinnable matchup for Fox. Doramigi would win the tournament and looked unstoppable. The GOAT MKLeo got 7th, losing to Onin twice, but if he beat Onin, he was in prime position to win the tournament, trust me. Interestingly, something I didn't see anyone talking about is the fact that Doramigi was actually the only Japanese player to make top 8. This is when talks of Doramigi possibly being the best player in the world began, since he had also gotten 2nd at Mayasuma Top 1 in January, 1st at Sumabato SP54, and 2nd at GSM prior to his big win at Level Up. But regardless of how stacked the tournament was, according to Cosmos on Lights Out, most top players considered it practice for Kaguribi. The real fun would happen the following week. Now, signups for Kaguribi 13 had been ongoing for months, and by this point, signups were finalized. Kaguribi 13 was going to be the most stacked tournament in Ultimate history. That record was previously held by EVO 2019, which had 3,500 entrants and is believed to have been worth roughly 16,000 points. Kaguribi 13 was worth 22,908 points. They had to upgrade the LumiRank tournament ranking system to account for just how stacked Kaguribi was becoming. They added a P+ tier, which was intended for tournaments 14,000 points and up, but Kaguribi was just too stacked. So they also had to add the Super Premier tier, abbreviated as SP, for tournaments over 17,000 points. This makes Kaguribi 13 standalone as the only Super Premier tournament in Smash Ultimate's history. It had all 5 of the global rank 5, 10 of the top 10, 22 of the top 25, 44 of the top 50, 83 of the top 100, and 118 of the top 150 in attendance. Seeing all the tweets and stuff and seeing how people were trying to fund as many players as possible to go to Japan for Kaguribi felt like we were going to war and that Kaguribi would be our last stand. Smash Ultimate's last hurrah. The culmination of so many storylines. Light and Sonic's first time in Japan, a ton of players who wouldn't normally travel to Japan being funded to go by the community, including 14 by StatsCord, Riddles' final Smash tournament, Tweak's retirement, Smashmate players such as Frontier, Nyushi, and Nyanchan going to their first offline tournaments, MKLeo trying to win again after beating Gluto and Raru en route to his 7th at Level Up, the tournament being wide open since Hurt was banned, Meister and Carmelo being hot off their first major wins, the return of retired players like Kameme and Yara, the most ranked players in attendance of any Smash tournament ever, and of course the big question. Will Kaguribi 13 be a repeat of last year's Kaguribi where the Japanese players eliminated all the invaders before top 8, showing how dominant they are? Of course there are many more, but those were the ones I could think of off the top of my head. And after all that, how did it end? Even with all that, it ended with the top 3 finishers being Akola, Raru, and Mia, Japan's 3 best players. Doramigi also got 5th, getting double eliminated by Tweak. Yeah, I think Japanese players are just built different. 5 of the top 8 placers at Kaguribi were Japanese players. Additionally, the Smashmade players that attended Kaguribi 13 as their first ever offline event made some huge upsets. Frontier, the rank 1 Smashmade player at the time who was seeded 2,404th, beat Shattuck, the global rank 16 player who was seeded 26th. Nyushi, seeded 2,512th, beat Ryuo, who was seeded 53rd and was global rank 27th. So while the overarching narrative of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is basically unchanged from a year ago, I do think that the skill gap is steadily decreasing. Since Kaguribi, 4 tournaments have happened with both Japanese and non-Japanese players in attendance. Kowloon 16, Uzes Symphonic Gaming Festival, Get On My Level Forever, and S Factor 12. Kowloon, which was in Japan, had quite a few international players since it took place the week after Kaguribi, with half of the event's Liquipedia notable entrance list being non-Japanese players. But regardless of all this, the highest placing Japanese player was Yoshidora, who placed 5th. Mia and Shuton, the 2 Japanese top 10 players in attendance, placed 9th and 7th respectively. But at the next major, Uzes Symphonic Gaming Festival, which by the way was a really cool event to watch because it had a live orchestra playing during top 8, grand finals was between the 2 best Japanese players in attendance, of 3 total, Mia and T. T defeated Spargo, the best player in the world, and Mia finally defeated his bracket demon, Gluttony. And finally, Get On My Level Forever, which had most of North America's best as well as Hurt and Shuton. Hurt seemingly hasn't been the same post-ban, getting a 2nd and a 33rd at his first 2 events back, and then a 7th at Gommel, losing to Sonics and MKLeo. Shuton, on the other hand, got 13th, losing to Cola, and for the first time, MKLeo. That's right, my GOAT beat both Hurt and Shuton on the same day. That's why he's the GOAT. And finally, S Factor 12 had Mia, Raru, Neo, and Hurt from Japan, and only Raru made top 8, getting 4th place. Also, MKLeo beat Hurt, Onin, and Gluttony back to back to back, so he's probably going to win every tournament ever from now on. Now remember Matchbox, that one online matchmaking ladder that HBox endorsed that barely anyone used? About a week before Gommel, it was announced that at the end of each week, the rank 1 player for each region's Matchbox ladder would get $100. And now, finally, people use it. Yes, it's still mostly dead, but at least now you can find a match, and there's always a double-digit number of matches going on at any time. And a bunch of top players actually use it too. If it was advertised better now that we have a weekly prize pool, I do think that this could help raise the skill floor of competitive players, but we'll have to wait and see. As of me writing this, it's been less than 2 weeks. Oh wow, you made it to the end of the video. This is my longest edited video yet, and if you liked it, then stay tuned for more and drop a comment if you liked it. Now that it's done, I can go 2-2 at Supernova in peace.